When you go to test drive this car and test drive the Subaru Crosstrek, because you're probably comparing them, put your foot down at 50 miles an hour and feel the difference. This is the Mazda CX-30. This is a 2023 model in the premium turbo trim. This has all-wheel drive and looks fantastic. It's a little bit bigger than the Mazda CX-3, a little bit smaller than the CX-5. And today I want to do my review of it after living with this car for a week. So we're gonna talk about the materials, we're gonna talk about the tech, and we're gonna talk about the drive. Before we get into all that, let's do a physical overview of the car. And you saw the exterior, now let me show you the rear seats and the trunk. First thing you'll notice is that back here, there is not a ton of space. In terms of legroom, it is very small. I would not recommend driving this car if you have other adults in it. It is great for kids and toddlers. You can see I have the booster seat in here. With a 4-year-old, it's just enough room. You can put child seats here. You have the ISOFIX latches for a child seat. And you can also fold the seats with a 60-40 split. And back here, you have just enough space for kids, as I mentioned. What's nice is you do have air conditioning vents back here, so you do still get air as a passenger in the back. And in the center, as you probably saw a little bit earlier, you have this double cup holder armrest, which just folds down very easily. When it comes to the trunk, we do have a powered liftgate, and you can customize the height that this goes to. So once you tap the button, all you'd have to do is hold it physically. You can just put it down right there, and then you can hold the button and have it hold here. I'm gonna lift it all the way up so you guys can see it. And here we go. So in the trunk, you can see the seats are split 60-40, and then this is a full-size carry-on bag here. So you can see we could fit a couple of these. I have my drone case right here, and we have a decent amount of room. There's not much space underneath here because we do have the spare tire right there. You don't have any side pockets or anything here, but the trunk space is fairly nice. And then you have a button here to lock the car and close the trunk, or just close the trunk. Now let's talk about the materials that we have up front. And this is where the car surprised me most. The materials are extremely plush. So if you see right here, as I push in, it is super duper soft on this armrest, and it feels great. It's got this nice brown leather, it's got white stitching in it, and it's the same on the door cards right here. So very soft materials, that white stitching again, and then here it's a little bit of a harder plastic. We have leather wrapping around here, so this whole area is empty. I feel it's a little bit strange with the design, and the screen does look a little bit sunken in, but it's not a touch screen, which we'll get to in a second. And so it looks a little bit far and the bezel's a little big, but in terms of materials, being in here, everything feels really, really nice. The steering wheel isn't too thick, but it feels good. It has a lot of buttons and controls on it for active cruise control, controlling the radio, activating Siri or Android Auto, etc. Then we have buttons here for things like the camera system. So in terms of materials, this is one of the nicer crossover SUVs that I've driven. It feels really good, and my arms just feel so relaxed and comfy when I'm driving this car. Now let's talk about the tech. First, I want to show you the camera system. So if we click the view button right here, you'll see that we have a 360 camera system. So we actually have a camera in the front of the car. So if I take this, put it in drive, and drive up to these trees right here, you'll see that I can tell exactly how far away I am from the trees and the curb, and the camera quality is actually really solid. For parking, this makes it really easy because you have the overhead camera there, and when you throw it in reverse, it switches to the back camera with that same overhead. So I can perfectly line myself up in this spot by just looking at that camera, and I don't even have to look at my side view mirrors anymore. It even tells you how far you've turned the wheels. So watch this, I'm gonna turn the wheel to the left, and these wheels turn left here, and it shows me where the front and the back of the car is gonna end up. Same thing if I put it into reverse, it shows me the wheels and shows me exactly where the car is going to end up, which is awesome. And it also has parking sensors. For the electronic brake to turn it on, all you have to do is put the car in park and tap this button down here, or pull to enable the parking brake. So it's on right now. As I mentioned, it is not a touch screen, so we have all the controls through this iDrive looking controller here. So you have to scroll through things, and it takes a little bit longer than I'd like. I wish it was a touch screen, and what I end up doing a lot is just activating Siri. So if I want to play music or make a call, I hold that button, I say, "Hello, Siri."
Hey Ben,
and then she works. I do wish that this car had wireless CarPlay. I believe on the website it said that it should have wireless CarPlay, but it doesn't. It does have to be plugged in. I have a USB cable plugged in here, and thankfully we do have a lot of space to keep stuff. So I have my phone right here, and there's a lot of room up front. So you have dual cup holders, you have this pocket area right here where you can keep additional things like your phone, your wallet, your keys, anything you want. There's good spacing there. We also have cup holders in the doors right here. This does fall through, this grip. I wish that it had a little cubby to put my key, not a big deal. And then we have buttons, of course, for the seat memory. We have the window switch controllers right here. We have parking sensors on and off. And then we have a sport mode here, which I haven't even used very much because I feel that the car is more than quick enough, which we'll talk about soon. And then we have a heated steering wheel, we have heated seats in the front, and we have dual zone climate controls with very simple controls right here. This middle vent is not a real vent. This is just plastic, it's filler. The air only comes out from here and here. It is a pretty cool looking design. I like it. The seats are nice and comfortable. They also have some really nice padding in them. So in terms of tech and materials, this car gets a very high score for me. I would give it an A. It also has automatic high beams. You can see the button for that right there. It tells you when the car is in automatic wiper mode. So hopefully you guys can see this little orange light. Click on right there. So the car does a great job in terms of that. And in terms of the driving, that's where it really becomes a video game. So let's get on the road and talk about it. There are two things you notice as soon as you start driving this car. One is that it has more power than you would expect. Compared to a Subaru Crosstrek or other crossovers in its class, this thing has tons of power. It gets 250 horsepower, 320 pound-feet of torque with this turbo engine. It's got all-wheel drive to deliver that power, and it feels really good. I've never felt that this car is underpowered or a little bit slow or dangerous feeling, so the power delivery is really nice. The second part is the handling. The steering wheel weight is a little bit on the heavier side, so if you're used to driving a car where you can drive it with one finger, like maybe a Lexus RX, this car is a little bit heavier to drive in terms of the steering feel, but it feels really good and it's very connected. So you can see that as soon as I move the steering wheel, the car moves very agile-like, and it feels a little bit more like a sports car than a crossover, which is really nice to me, or a little bit more like a sports car than an SUV rather, which is kind of where the crossover should be. My feet are off the gas and the brake right now, and I'm just controlling my distance from the other car using this rocker controller. So if I want more distance, I push this forward. If I want less distance, I can just push it back. And it does a really good job. If I want to change lanes over here, I can go ahead and do so, and then it will start following the car in front of me. So if I want a little bit less distance and say, hey, you can stay closer to the car in front, I can adjust that right there. But as you can see, the gauge is still a little bit confusing because there is a lot going on. Now, I'm going to, on purpose, have a car in my blind spot and turn the turn signal on. I'm not going to change lanes here, but I want you to hear the sound effects that this car makes because it is very video game-like. You can even hear it when I turn the signal on. There we go, it showed a blind spot in the rear left. It sounds like a video game. It sounds like a little text tone alert. So let's give it a second. Right there. Hopefully you guys heard that. It sounds so video gamey. Even the clicks of the turn signal don't sound like a real turn signal, but it feels kind of fun to drive this car. If you're driving it and you don't have your seatbelt on, it starts making sounds like that. There's just so many sound effects and graphics and different things that you can change. And then you have the 360 camera system. It feels like driving a car from Black Mirror if you've ever watched that TV show on Netflix. So overall, I would say the CX-30 drives very well. Who is it for? It's for young couples, it's for single people, it's for young families. So if you just have small kids in the back or you have no one that needs to use the back seat, it's a great car. It's fairly fuel efficient at 25 miles per gallon. I think it could do a little bit better, but on highway driving, it gets 30 miles to the gallon. So if you're doing road trips, it's great for that. The adaptive cruise control works really well. I'll turn it back on here. And this car is comfortable to be in. The sound system is good. I wish it had a touchscreen. That's my biggest gripe with the car. But other than that, this is solid. For the money, I don't think there are many cars in this size that you could beat it with. You could go to a CX-5 if you wanted a little bit more space, if you drive people in the back seat of your car. Hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Peace.